What up, all my tech mixers out there in the ether? I finally got my hands on my copy of ISOM #1, the premiere comic from Eric July's new Rippaverse. If you don't know what that is, there's this small-time creator called Eric July, otherwise known as Young Rippa, who decided to launch his own comic book company to compete with DC and Marvel because he was fed up with all of the woke crap that they were putting in their books and wanted to make cool stuff for people who actually like comic books again. Which is super refreshing because the comic book industry has progressively gotten worse and worse and worse and just inundated with just garbage. The stories aren't good anymore. The creators actively hate the characters they're writing for, and I'm sick of it. So I decided to support this comic, and I finally got it, and I read it, and we're gonna review it. So here we go, everybody.
Oh, he's technically Mexican and 3/4 American, but for 3 generations he's got that nationality. Great-great-grandpa headed south, whose kids had kids then turned around. It's not what the show's about, but it's why he's Mexican technically. It helps that he was raised in New Mexico, lived in Guadalajara for 2 years, speaks fluent Spanish with a bachelor's degree in language, and makes a mean taquito.
Now, I gotta say, I am a big fan of what Eric July is trying to do. I think that corporate Hollywood and old media has long passed its prime, and I'm really excited to see where independent media can take us. I mean, it's part of the reason why I'm doing this YouTube thing, trying to create stuff of my own. That being said, though, I'm going to be objective in my review of this comic. I think Eric July the man deserves points for being based, but the comic book needs to be reviewed on its merits. So, let's talk about ISOM #1. So, quick thoughts. It's good. It's not the best thing ever. It didn't blow my mind, but it established a good base for a future story that I'm excited to read about. And I think that it is a good launching point for his Rippaverse. It's definitely not perfect, but I liked it, and I'm excited to see more. So let's break that down a bit. It's super exciting how many people bought this comic. I mean, to make $3.7 million for your first book is incredible. So kudos to Mr. Rippa. I believe they announced they already started inking issue #2, or maybe they were just drawing it. So don't quote me on that. But they've definitely started issue #2. So this has a lot of potential, and it's got me excited. Some cons, though. It's kind of expensive. $35 for a 100-page comic book plus shipping is a bit high for my personal taste. But the physical quality of the book is really good. This is printed on real thick paper, and it feels heavy, and it's really nice. It's a good quality print. So I also have to acknowledge, though, that I'm probably not the target demographic for comic books. I've never been someone who's spent a lot of money buying comic books. We didn't have a lot of money when I was a kid, and what money I did have, I saved because I was pretty frugal. So my comic book experience consisted of me and my brother constantly going to the library to check out pretty much any comic that they had available. I never really got to pick and choose. I literally just read everything they had. So I read a lot of Spider-Man and X-Men, but I've never been like deep into comic book lore. I've always really liked it. I just never really had the opportunity or time to deep dive into comics. The few comics that my brother and I did buy were mostly like compendium stuff. We had one Marvel compendium that consisted of the first appearances of all the major superheroes and their first comic book ever. So I got to read all the origin stories, which was really cool. And then I read special issues like Kingdom Come and Marvel and The Death and Return of Superman, which I really liked that one. So when I say it's too expensive, like I'm not the guy that spends money on comic books. You know, $35 isn't like a huge amount of money, but it is a pretty good chunk. And I think that if the price remains the same for each issue, unless I make a ton of money on YouTube, I probably won't be able to afford to keep reading it. I mean, I could afford it, but like I gotta prioritize my kids, you know? Even then, though, I'm glad that I spent the money that I did, because I also realized that it's kind of an investment at this point. It's a brand new company. They don't have the same kind of contracts and deals with big producers to be able to make dirt cheap comics. And, you know, they don't have the same shipping deals either, right? So I was happy to invest $35 into the first issue, but I do hope that future issues get become a little bit cheaper because I would love to keep reading the story. So the physical aspects, I absolutely love cover A. I think it's really cool. The back is also pretty dope. I'm not a huge fan of covers B and C, which is why I didn't buy them. This one's just way cooler, guys. But the artwork inside is equally good. Here's a little fight scene. Yeah, it's fun. It's comic. Yeah, I can't complain. It's comic books. We got some more fights. It's a comic book. It's really well made and it feels really good to hold, man. So let's talk about the story. It's not an origin story. It's actually a comeback story. A hero who's decided to stop being a hero and is kind of thrust back into it. It's nothing super groundbreaking. You've got a reluctant hero. You've got like underground organizations. You've got a mob boss who's doing bad stuff. And you've got some pretty interesting world building. This is a world where heroes have been around for a long time. You have like a super powered police force that are supposed to keep superheroes and supervillains in check a little bit. And the story is really just about the hero ISOM, or Avery, I believe is his real name. Just getting thrust back into a world that he tried to hide from. That's pretty much it. It's in episode 1 of a TV show. It sets up everything pretty well, and it's pretty good. I really don't have a lot of complaints. There are a lot of teases of other heroes and storylines that might come up in different issues that will parallel ISOM, and they seem pretty interesting. I really liked the interaction between ISOM and the other super, Yaira, I think is what they're... I think that's how you say that. I'm not great at pronouncing weird names, but the way those two characters accidentally ended up interacting with each other was kind of fun. I liked that idea. It was really brief, but they promised we'll see more of that character later. So yeah, it was a good solid setup. It didn't shatter any barriers for me, but most refreshingly, it didn't have any garbage in it. So I really liked that. And I really liked the family dynamic that they set up between the main character Avery and his sister and niece. It was heartwarming. It's good. One last minor complaint is that some of the dialogue can be a little bit clunky with a little bit of like forced exposition. It's not too terrible, and again, it's been a long time since I've read a good comic book, so maybe it's just that, but I did feel like some of the lines were a little bit clunky. Like for example, there's a scene where he's talking with his sister and he mentions her dead husband by name, and through the context you're able to pick up that she's a single mom because her husband died. But then on top of that, after you already get it, he throws in a line saying, he was a good man. I could not have asked for a better brother-in-law. Like, it's not terrible dialogue, but it was also kind of like unnecessary. It was like, yeah, like we got it with the context clues. You didn't need to tell us specifically brother-in-law. Like, we were able to figure it out without that line. But I get it. A lot of times you want to include dialogue like that to cement relationships and make sure the audience knows who all the characters are. But maybe I'm just too smart and I understand things better than most people. So it bugs me a little bit. It's not like, it's definitely not like a deal breaker. But that's pretty much it, though. It's a good comic. I'm excited for more. I hope in the future the price is able to come down a little bit, because I'd love to be able to keep supporting Rippaverse. So that's it. Go check it out. And sorry you can't get the best cover anymore, because it's a limited edition and it's mine. Bye.